first night that we sat, he come in.
Did you start getting a little nervous then?
The heart started pumping for sure.
We still had our equipment out there, ground blind, a tree stand, and 2 trail cameras. Went to get them after deer season was over, and they were no longer there.
Took the card out and they saw a big deer on it.
I don't know. There was 2 big deer on it.
Welcome back to the Ozark podcast. I'm Kyle Veet, your host, and I'm joined as always by my good buddy, Mr. Kyle Plunkett. How are you?
Yes, sir. Doing good.
We've made the trek to not too far away from our house. We've stayed here in Northwest Arkansas.
It's kind of rare for us these days.
Yeah, we like hitting
Kind of
the
a nice
road.
change of pace.
It is, and we're going to be talking about early season whitetail. Season, as you're listening to this, season just opened this last Saturday. So this is coming out next Wednesday, you guys, and it's officially time to get out in the woods. If you are an archery hunter, you've probably been looking forward to this all season. It's time to get out there and do some damage. And actually, this was the first year in Arkansas we had the early season archery hunt, and so hopefully some of you guys have already gotten out and maybe had some success. But if you haven't, we've got 2 guys on the podcast with us today, and it's the Sommers Brothers. We've got Winston Sommers. Winston, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And we've got his younger brother, Zach Sommers.
Thank you.
And these guys are deer slayers. I was talking to Big Pete, our taxidermist, our good buddy, and I was saying, man, we need to get some killers on the podcast for early season. We want to talk to some guys who can help people get some deer on the ground. And he was like, I got some guys. Winston just brought me a 170 just like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, yes, I'm talking to that guy. So here we are.
Here we are.
So Winston, you've got this 170 here. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see this deer here. Just insane mass, just the junk around the base, the kickers. I mean, everything.
How many total points is that thing?
Yeah.
13, I believe.
Okay.
13. I think we can maybe stretch that one out a little more. We could get 14.
Call it
but-
14.
That thing is a stud of a deer. So I'm curious. Well, maybe before we go there, do y'all just want to introduce yourself a little bit, kind of talk about where
Sure.
you're from and how you got here and how long you've been here?
Sure. So I'm Winston Sommers, and I grew up in northern Missouri, close to Kansas City, actually, most of my growing up years. And then we moved to Montana for about 5 years. I lived out there. Was lucky enough to kill an elk and some cool stuff like that out there. And then got married and moved to northeast Oklahoma, I guess, the Miami, Oklahoma area. And then a couple years later, we come to XNA.
Miami.
Or NWA, I guess.
And they say it like that over there. They say Miami.
They do say Miami.
And
it's not Miami.
If someone's from out of town, if they say Miami, Oklahoma.
Right. They'll correct you.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out for sure.
Heck
But
yeah.
so it's been good to be here. We love it. NWA's been good to us.
Heck yeah. So you've been here about 6 years.
About 6 years.
Gotcha. And you've grown up whitetail hunting your whole life.
Right.
Okay.
Some good places to do it.
Yes, sir. I've
Some real
been
good places.
fortunate. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Zach, brothers, I assume somewhat of a similar story.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm Zach Sommers, and I moved here from Montana, obviously, 5 years ago. Before that, lived in northern Missouri. Moved with the family to Montana for 8 years, I think it was. And then we moved down here. They had already moved here a year before us. And so moved down here with the parents, whole family. And, I lived here since. I got married 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you marry an Arkansas girl?
I did, yeah. She's
Right.
born and raised Arkansas.
All right.
She's lived here her whole life.
The move was worth it for you
Yeah.
then.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was a good move.
Heck
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So we've got as you've heard, we've got some guys who actually didn't grow up in the Ozarks, aren't from here, some out of towners, if you will, which I'm glad because we talk to a lot of Ozarkers all the time, but it's kind of nice to get a different perspective of guys who are coming in, grew up hunting in a different place, and then to come here and to kind of have to figure everything out. You might come in with a fresh set of eyes that maybe someone here who grew up like us, doesn't really have a fresh perspective. So I'm curious, when you got here, did you immediately, were you guys hunting public land first, or did you guys start on private? Kind of what was your exposure to being able to hunt and access and things like that?
So honestly, for me, I didn't get into it when I moved from Oklahoma. I had good land in Oklahoma that I hunted. When I moved here, at first I was just like, man, there's just not enough big deer to really excite me and get me out, and I didn't do much door knocking, and so I didn't really have that many places to go. And then when Zach moved in, he was, let's do it. So he actually has been a big instigator of getting
He
us
got
on
you
some
motivated.
properties. He did.
There you go, Zach.
Yeah, and so that's been awesome. We've had a lot of fun. And so no, we have hunted only private land actually, or
Okay.
I have.
Yeah.
Have you hunted any public
No,
land?
no.
Okay.
Only private land. Some different properties around here.
Yeah. Heck yeah. That's good because, we talk to a lot of guys and we talk a lot about, public land tactics and stuff like that because it's interesting. It's a challenge. And so we go into a lot of depth, but this will kind of be our first time to really talk let's talk about private land because, we would be lying if we say we didn't hunt private sometime, a lot of the time, and that there's a lot of people listening who hunt private as well. And so to kind of talk to some of the tactics that you can kind of put in play and figuring out your piece of property,
Totally.
I think it'll be good, right?
Yeah, and using your property in your favor and managing it in your favor and all that kind of stuff. We have talked like property management from the private side. But yeah, I don't know if we've done a full episode where it's like these are some big buck killers on some private land.
Yeah.
But it can apply the tactics to, a 10-acre parcel up to a huge parcel up to public, I imagine, other than maybe planning or baiting or something like that.
Sure.
But
Right.
yeah, I'm excited for this. This is like how I grew up hunting. This is
Awesome.
what I was born and raised on in the Ozarks, hunting like this. And so I feel like I'm oftentimes on this podcast learning to speak a foreign language.
Yeah.
This one I'm going to feel like I'm speaking plain English.
Yeah.
Like I know how this goes.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Love
So let's get to the 170 here that you're holding. Talk me through the first time that you saw this deer, because I know you were hunting it for a couple of years. It wasn't just this was
Right.
the first year you saw it.
Yep. So last year was the first time we were able to hunt this piece of property, and we knew it had a lot of deer, and we actually got on it after season had started. Got on it a little late, and so we didn't have a ton of time to stomp. At that point, we didn't want to stomp all over the place and kind of bump them and that kind of thing. So just from watching deer, I think we saw a couple good deer out when we just pulled up and just watching the place and just looking for deer. We saw some deer, and then we got cameras out, and he pulled up pretty quick. We started getting pictures of him, and so actually the first night that we sat, our first sit there, he come in to about 20 yards, right? Had him in.
Yeah, 25.
The first night that y'all were there.
First night we were there,
No
we had an
way.
encounter with him.
Do y'all hunt together?
We
Yeah.
were in a
Pretty much
we
all
were
the
in a-
time.
Okay, in the same tree or
Yeah.
Same
side by
tree.
side? Okay,
Yeah,
Heck,
and
that's fun.
we could see him for a while. Of course, he waited till the last light to pull up, and I actually shoot a crossbow because I injured my right eye, so therefore I had to humble myself and shoot a crossbow. But so the lighting was just not quite perfect for me, and I was like, man, it's the first night we're hunting here. We're not gonna force it. And
Zach,
so,
do you not have your bow? Like, are you like, well, I could
had
shoot.
I had my bow. I pulled up my bow and I looked through the sight and I'm like, dude, I could shoot him. But
Yeah.
I had just shot that buck 7 days prior, so
Okay.
a week before opening
okay.
night.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had shot.
And
my
we're
buck.
gonna get to that.
We're gonna
one.
get in that one later.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
before we do that, I do want to hear a little bit about how y'all hunt together and who decides who shoots and who just like how does
Yeah,
that
that's-
work? Because I have a little brother who's he's a deer hunter. He's actually just this season getting into archery hunting. He's like, I've done the
Awesome.
rifle thing. I've watched you do it. I want to do it. And everything in me wants him to succeed in every way possible. And then there's a tiny part of me that's like, but don't hunt my spot, bro.
That's right.
If a big deer
Don't
walks
shoot
out,
at the
I'm
big
shooting
deer.
it.
But like I have cameras out, like don't hunt over there.
That's
I'm not
right.
gonna do that to him. But I feel it. So how do y'all
Yeah.
manage that?
Yeah.
Well-
so far, go ahead.
I mean, I think this one, it was because of that. I shot that deer. This is the next deer we got in on. Like I said, we didn't have any history with it. He comes in, the last deer to come in, like he always has been, and it's 10 minutes till last legal light, and he can't see him through his scope. And obviously, I'm not going to shoot a deer till he gets a deer.
Sure.
And so then, from then, I mean, it was just because he had history with the deer.
Mhm.
It always just felt like his deer. I was never going to shoot it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But
Were y'all not together when you took this one?
we were not. He had
Okay.
he had some family in town,
Okay.
and so my brother-in-law was actually with me on that one.
Okay,
He actually filmed that for me,
Gotcha.
so it's pretty cool.
So you didn't have to cross that bridge then.
No, we didn't.
Right.
No,
Okay.
no.
Got
I
it.
guess not. I'm not sure how that one worked out. I guess I just shot that one.
Shoot, no, that one was just the kind of the same way. He had a little bit of history with him the year before, and he was up to bat first.
Yeah.
and so
Heck yeah.
I guess it's just kind of going like that in a circle.
Yeah.
That's so fun though.
Yeah,
So you got next. It sounds like.
yeah. He's
Oh,
up
Zach's
next this
got
weekend.
next.
Yep.
So this deer came in at dark, almost dark.
Correct.
You're having trouble seeing him.
Day one.
Day one.
Day one.
Yeah, keep going.
And so after that, he kept showing up on cameras for a week or two, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Just not in daylight. And I hunted a lot, obviously, and just never in daylight. Every other deer, I'd see him, but not him in daylight. And then about probably 2 weeks after that, he just disappeared.
Mm.
And of course, I kept hunting, just hoping he pulls back up. Just waiting, hoping I'm there, right place, right time. And never. We didn't see him the rest of the year until
Oh, really?
until this summer. Actually, got cameras out
Oh.
right when they were starting to grow, and he just starting to grow his antlers. I was like, I saw this stuff actually, and I was like, that's him.
That's him.
Mm.
That's him. He's back. And so I didn't know what happened.
When was
didn't
that?
know if
When,
you got-
when y'all when you stopped seeing him last year?
It was 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks after season started. is
Okay.
when we got the last picture, and we did not get a single picture. We keep feed out till late season,
Yeah.
past so we think they're coming back after the rut,
Right.
and he never showed back up.
Interesting. So right after kind of that early season, he just moved out
Yeah.
and went to a different part of his home range.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So he every other, like most of the other deer stayed there. Actually, all of them. Some
I
more
think all
pulled
of
up, but he went somewhere else. So that's why this season, the early velvet, we were like, heck yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you're
gonna
excited about
be
that.
that's gonna be great.
So he shows back up in the summer. You guys, you identify like this is that deer.
He just had like a little bit, like he hadn't grown much, but he was already growing this trash, and we were like, that's him.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were jacked, obviously, and
Getting him at velvet picks and everything.
right,
Just
he
probably
just kept
looks like a
getting better
monster.
and better. Yeah, he did. He looked freaking awesome in velvet. And then really all summer, we kept getting pictures of him just consistently as can be, and all the way up till he's daylighting a lot, and all the way up till he shed, and he's shedding like 24 hours. I didn't know they shed that fast, but this dude, like, he was there one evening and disappeared till the next night.
Yeah, it was the
24
next-
hours later,
yeah.
he pulls back up and he's hard horned.
Really?
completely, not a stitch of velvet on him.
It goes that quick.
That
I don't
he
think
did.
I knew that.
The other deer don't
Yeah.
normally. I in my experience.
Yeah.
There's some
Dang.
trashed up trees over there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
He's just
Absolutely
going
trashed
down.
up trees. Yeah.
Yes, sir. But so he pulls up. Wait a second. So he disappeared, and then just for that one day, and then he's kept on coming in, just not quite as consistently as he was when it seemed like already his habits has started to change just a little bit.
Mhm.
More nighttime pictures, and so that first day of the early velvet season, obviously I had high hopes,
Sure.
but not as high as I would have if it had been 2 weeks earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But sure enough, we actually were lucky enough to buy a redneck blind this year. Shout out to Redneck. I think after this deer, I can't say that it for sure helped us with wind, but wind wasn't just fantastic that night. It was good, but it could have been better.
Mhm.
It was okay.
And,
yeah.
And so we had a lot of deer in all night, and no signs, nothing of him. Didn't see him anywhere.
And y'all,
And-
y'all. I'm assuming you didn't hunt the morning.
Right,
No.
we didn't hunt morning. It just
Okay.
felt too risky to us to hunt in the morning.
Yeah.
Trying to get in there,
Mhm.
and so we did not hunt. We waited until the evening to hunt.
Okay.
Got in there, and lots of other deer pulled up. Nothing out of this dude, and it's getting darker. And I'm kind of thinking, man, he ain't gonna pull up.
Yeah.
Hopefully tomorrow night
Yeah,
or
it's not
Monday night,
today.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like not today. And I kept seeing the other deer that were around us kept kind of looking behind us, and we got blind. We got window shades on the back window just to kind of help our silhouettes. And I just opened up. I told Zach, I said, "There's something back there like they're looking at." And so I just peeked out, opened up a little bit of the blind, peeked out there, and this dude walked with a limp, which I had seen earlier. I should have mentioned. I saw earlier this summer when I was watching deer. I saw him out there, and he had a little limp, and I was like, man, that's new from last year. I know he didn't have a limp last year. Anyway, and I peeked out that window, and I saw this deer, and I kind of was pretty sure I saw this trash, and I saw him take a step, and he had a limp, and I was like, he's back there. He's
That's him.
coming.
Yeah.
And
Man. I bet your heart. Did you start getting a little nervous then?
yeah, I did. Obviously, the heart started pumping for sure.
Yeah.
But I was like, game time. I got to keep the game face on, right? You can't mess this up.
Right.
And Zach's like, I told him, I said, I think he's coming like around his side. Looked like because I quick shut that. I didn't want any movements, man. And so shut that, and I was like, it looks like he's coming behind us and then down your side. And sure enough, that's what he did. But we didn't. He kind of stopped at directly to my right. He kind of stopped, and we didn't have that window open because of the wind was a little bit. That was the direction that the wind was pushing out to just a little bit. But luckily the wind had died down. As the evening went on, the wind kept dying down a little bit. But man, when he hit that window, I could hear Zach's heartbeat just start.
It was more my breathing. I don't have great
Right.
breathing. It got real fast, and I think I was more nervous than he was when he was walking in.
And so I was like, man, if he's going to stop there, we need to get that window open.
Yeah.
Because he was probably 25 yards.
Barely
25 yards at that point. And the window's open pretty quietly. I think we could have pulled it off, but I was like, if it looks like he's going to keep coming, just let him come.
Yeah. And the right side would be your offhand too, for like,
right.
You got to come across your body with your bow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, rather than not get any shot, we're going to try that. But if he's going to keep on coming, we're going to let him come.
Yeah.
And luckily, he stood there for a while, and he kept on coming. And then as soon as he come out to like 40 yards, first shot, the first time I could have shot was at 40 yards. And I was like, I'm going to take him there before he tries to go anywhere else. And then he just kept on walking and come into 30.
Okay.
And I just stayed on him the whole time. So as soon as he stopped at 30 yards, I let it eat.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, smoked him.
Heck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Heck
That is
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So he took off. Did it take you a while to find him? Did you feel like you made a good shot?
No, we were sure we made a good shot. Zach was actually videoing it just with his phone.
Okay.
And he run probably 80 yards. Probably 80 yards, and he kind of stopped, and we're like, he's going to pile up right there. And sure enough, he did. We were able to saw him die on the video.
Heck yeah, dude. Well done,
man. It was unreal.
Well done. That is.
And then it got real.
Those moments, like I feel like everything slows down. It's just like it's so intense. Like you're hearing your breath, your heart.
Right.
It's just like everything is so intense in that moment.
It is.
And to be able to like stick with it and keep your game face on and push through and make a good shot, that's a tough thing to do. So
yeah,
congrats, man.
Thanks. I was man, when you get a big deer in, or any deer really, but when you get him in and you know you're going to take the shot, it's like, focus.
Yeah.
Don't look at this right here right now. Focus on the shot attempt.
You can't.
Shoot. But
it's fun. Kyle was, just mentioned it, but you feel like all of your senses are alive.
Yeah.
In like 1 minute, and it's nothing else does that to you.
That's fair.
Seeing antlers like that come through the woods, it's
true.
It's pretty sweet.
You go primal.
Yeah.
You really do.
So you get down, you climb down, you see him pile up, and then you walk up to him. What was that moment like, walking up to him, seeing just how big he was? Because you always have an idea, but until you walk up on it, you really don't know.
Yeah, it was unreal. So I called our littler brother and my wife and kids, and I was like, come over. We got him. He's down. So we hung out for a while until they got there. And yeah, so we went out there, walked up to him, and when I pulled this side up, I was like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
This mass is unbelievable. Like I just could not see this mass on the photos that we had of him, on all the trail cam pics that we had of him. It just blew me away. I pulled him up. We thought he'd probably be around 165, maybe upper 160s. I pulled him up, and I was like, he might go 170.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
Did you get it? What did he score?
So he scores 170.
Right,
170 and a quarter and 170. We had two guys scoring 170 and a quarter and 170 and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he hasn't been officially scored yet.
That's not officially. That's green,
Sure.
obviously.
Yeah.
Peyton scored him the second time. He said from what he usually scores a buck and what the real guy scores, he usually is a couple inches less than what the
Under.
actual score is. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel pretty. I mean, he's right there.
Yeah,
within
he's
a couple
a
inches for
giant
sure. Yeah.
either way. Golly, man.
How many inches do you think he'll lose after the drying period? Because we hear numbers all over the board.
Yeah.
I want to know y'all's take on it. Having hunted in Montana, Oklahoma, Missouri, and now here.
I don't know. I'm not gonna give you like a number because sure enough this one will be a lot different. But I don't think they lose a ton. Really, do you, Zach? What do you say?
I don't. I mean, in my experience, which I have never shot a 170, I've shot some 130, whatever. A couple inches is all those have shrunk, 2-3 inches. But I don't know. A big deer, I could see how they would shrink more. I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
5 inches. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, it's a beast either way, man.
Yeah, it's
Right.
awesome.
That thing is sweet.
Thank
And
you.
unique too. Like big deer are awesome, and of course, to see the mass and everything is cool. But the uniqueness and the kickers and stuff like that. Anytime you see a kicker, like if a deer walks out with a kicker, he's getting dropped. It's just they're so cool.
They are cool.
So that's a really really cool deer. And for the Ozarks too, like this area, just a once in a lifetime deer. Really, like
Mhm.
you just don't see those
sure.
deer that often,
For
if
sure.
ever. Most
Yeah.
people never see a deer that big.
Mhm.
So that's really really special.
You bet.
All right, Zach. So Winston's not the only killer in the family. You shot a big 130. What did we say? 133?
133. Yeah.
Winston told me 135 on the phone. Okay. So 133.
Should we pull him off the wall for a second?
Yeah, we
We
can
can put him in the
down.
video.
Is he just on a screw right here?
Yeah, you're good. You can just pick him
Let's
up.
pop him off.
Yep.
So this is your deer from last year.
Yep.
And again, we were just talking about the Ozarks and the average size, typical size of deer around here. So for anyone listening, a 135 is still a trophy, 100%. I mean, I feel like the average buck. I don't know, Kyle. What would you say? Like the average Ozark mountain buck?
I don't know if I'm going to give you an average, but I was telling Zach off camera, like for growing up around here and hunting deer in the Ozarks, when I think of big Ozark mountain buck, this is what I think of.
Yeah.
It's slicker horned for whatever reason. There's less of the, I've lost the word. What do you call that at the base of the antler there, where it's all
Knobbies. I don't know what they call
yeah,
it. Really.
knobs. There's a word, and
Yeah.
I will not remember it. I'm not gonna try, but yeah, it's slicker,
Yeah.
like tall tines.
Mhm.
They seem to go not super wide, but up.
And
And then the mass is
no mass.
historically just not there. Like you're just not gonna get mass
Yeah.
like you will in some other parts of the country. And so your average, like I'm not gonna say average, your trophy like Ozark mountain buck, you're like, I really did something. I didn't just
Yeah.
kill a buck that walked out. I got something serious. I'm gonna say for the majority of the Ozarks, you're looking at a 130 plus inch deer.
Yeah.
So anything that breaks that mark, that 130 mark, I think is pretty special.
You've like taken a mature whitetail that's
Mhm.
like that doesn't just happen. Like
Mhm.
those come by like putting in the time and doing the right things. Because a deer of that age and maturity is going to wind you. If you do something wrong, he's going to make you pay for your mistakes.
Yep.
So you shot this deer last year, and it was early season as well.
Correct. Opening day.
Okay, and you had a little history with this deer.
Correct. Yeah, this one we have history with the deer and with the neighbors on this one. It gets real interesting. But anyway, so this is actually on my uncle's property. This is once again a private land deer. It's like a 15 acre, something like that parcel, and no trees. I mean, there's two corners with a little bit of trees and a pond.
Okay.
So it was tough to set up on. We didn't have the redneck blind. Obviously, we were just hunting out of tree stands. And there was just no way to put a ground blind in that would really work with the wind, the predominant wind that was that time of year. And so the year before, we were late getting into that place, really. And so, we had this one and another one that was actually a little bit bigger than him come in consistently. And then exactly a week before season, they disappeared. And we had, I think, 2 or 3 trail camera pictures of this one during season, all during the night. They never came out in daylight during bow season last year
Really?
that we saw.
Oh.
And then following year, so the end of that year, we shot I think we shot one deer off of that place, and we got permission from the neighbor right behind it. It was just a narrow strip of property. His ranch his farm was mostly above that piece. There was just like a maybe 60 or 70 yard piece of like that's all the wider that it was down to the other neighbor. And we set up on that because it's a little closer to where they're living. They're staying down there, and we're like, well, maybe we can get pictures of them on there. We never did, but anyway, in December, we still had our equipment out there. We had a ground blind, a tree stand, and 2 trail cameras down there, and went to get them a little later in the spring after deer season was over, and they were no longer there. I knew the batteries were out on the one camera, and so from where it was, there's not really anybody else around.
Kind of a landlocked piece.
It's extremely landlocked, far from any roads.
Okay.
And so we went and talked to the neighbors and basically got threatened off the piece, started off their property.
Oh.
We just asked them if they seen our stuff or if anybody they knew had seen their stuff.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's part of private land hunting, I guess.
Mhm.
They trespassed and grabbed a few items for the pawn shop, I guess.
So they swiped your stuff.
So they swiped our stuff. So
Oh,
anyway,
man, what the
next
heck?
year,
and it's probably because they took the card out and they saw a big deer on it.
I don't know.
They're like, I don't want these guys to know.
There's 2 big deer on it, but and so it just made this a little more. The next year, I was like, we're gonna shoot one of those deer. It's just no way around it. And so we put a lot of time and effort into it. And there's a piece of little woods back there that's like it's 20 yards wide and 10 yards deep. Like that's it. And the deer always come through there. So we set up a lot of cameras. He was coming back in as soon as we started feeding him again. And he was pretty consistent. He was decent. And then we started feeding him some deer ration when we could. And it just the last week or 2 before season, he just got completely every night. I mean, he never missed a night. He was there exact same within 2 minutes, I think it was.
Man.
And so, opening evening, we got out there. My brother-in-law, Jeremy, was with me. And, it worked to perfection. He came in perfect timing. And that setup was horrible, to be honest with you. It was 15 yards to the where we were feeding them. And, I mean, I don't know how he never saw us draw. I drew as he come into the clearing. And that was it. I mean, 15 yards. He ran maybe 40.
Yeah.
I double lunged him, and it was pretty sweet. Just being able to get this buck, and I failed to mention we had this deer the year before. We figured he was a 3-year-old, and then like last year when we started getting pictures of him again, just didn't seem like he put on any size.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't think he put more than 5 inches of antler on.
Yeah.
From 3 to a 4. He added a kicker back here, and that's pretty much maybe a little bit of mass.
Yeah.
Framing is identical. So, I mean, like you said, it's Arkansas deer.
That's awesome.
They don't often, most of them don't get to that size.
That's rare.
That's
That's
very,
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 very
very rare.
That
This
doesn't
right
happen.
here is something to be proud of.
So
every
this
day of
is
the week,
this is
though.
your normal, I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
awesome.
decent Arkansas deer.
Yeah.
You said he was so consistent. Were you like watching your clock? You're like, it'll be 7 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be in here.
And we were covered up in deer from, you know how it is. You get out there and
Yeah.
an hour before dark, all the does and little bucks start coming out there and just getting in your way and whatever. But we probably had 20 deer around us that night. It felt like they were just all
man.
over our tree stand.
Gosh.
And I'm still not sure how they didn't blow us out. But
Seriously.
there was no wind, and somehow or another that worked out to where I guess there was, no scent down there somehow or another. But
That's tough. All those eyeballs too, just in the area, and like you just never know when you're gonna make the wrong move.
You go from hoping you see deer to when you know a buck's coming in, you're like, can every other deer just leave?
Yeah, right.
Get out of here.
That's it.
Yep.
Dang,
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Heck yeah, dude. All right. Well, 2 awesome deer, 2 trophies for sure. Y'all don't have to hold these the
I
whole
was gonna
time.
say,
We
okay.
can
So we set them off to
We
the
just
side
stick
here.
him, stick him back on the wall.
unload these. We're gonna get into. I want to hear y'all's perspective on like what you think has contributed to your success in the early season. Because I think, obviously people get excited. They want to get out in the woods, and sometimes they do things that they come to regret later. They put too much scent on the ground. They hunt at times maybe they shouldn't hunt. I'm just curious what you think your biggest contributing factors to y'all's success is. Both of these deer being early season whitetail. What do you think has made y'all successful with these? Y'all can go one at a time.
I mean, I think a large part of it is, just watch what the deer are doing on that place. If you have a spot where you can watch, just kind of like just get out and see where they want to be and where they're coming out of and what what they want to be doing. We're not trying to make them come to us like somewhere where they don't want to be. We're trying to get in where they're going to naturally go to, and where they naturally want to be, and try to if we can do it, get in and then hopefully make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big thing I think for me, is just watching them and getting to know their habits.
Yeah.
Kind of on that piece.
And is that like, so if you've got a spot to watch, you're watching from a distance, are you just trying to do that, a month or two before season, or how much time before? Because, their patterns can change, things
Right.
can switch up. So what's kind of your ballpark that you're like, I need to get out there this time?
Yeah, I would say a month or two before.
Yeah.
This year I did for sure, and just got out there and watched where he was coming out of, and again the second year, obviously hunting the piece, you kind of got a better idea. And then obviously the more time you put in on a piece of land, the more you get to know what they like to do, and the more you get to understand the piece of land too. So that helps, of course. But yeah, probably a month, for sure. A month before, 2 months before, I'd go over there some and just watch.
Just sit there.
Just sit there.
Creeper van.
That's it.
Do you use a spotting scope out of your truck or anything like that?
I didn't. I just used my binoculars
Yeah.
and just kind of laid low and watched from a distance. Didn't try to get in where I was gonna bump them or nothing like that, but just where I could watch.
Yeah.
Get a good eye on it. But obviously cell cams too or trail cameras in a whole, but cell cams have been freaking awesome.
That's a big unlock.
They have.
Because you're not having to go in, right?
Exactly.
And get
Fewer
your
times
card,
in there.
put your scent
Yep.
on the ground.
Yep.
So that's a big part of y'all's program.
It is.
it is.
Yeah.
Anywhere where we can. There's obviously Arkansas, Ozarks. There's a lot of places where there's no service.
Yeah.
and
Right.
those are tough. It's a little tough. We've hunted there, in the past, and it's tough. Sometimes there's a deer that's been in there for 2 days, and you're a week later checking your card, and you're like, shoot. Well,
Yeah.
If I'd have known, I'd came in the next day. But by then they might be moved on or whatever. But cell cams I think, is a great investment, honestly, if you're
Okay.
early season hunting.
Yeah.
And I think both of these places, the second year we were on them, and then this year again on that place, I think we had them out by the end of July for sure. We had cameras out, and like you said, we watch where they're coming out. These deer, most of the time, their summer patterns won't change from year to year
Mhm.
unless there's been changes in the fields and so forth. But get cameras out on their trails, get multiple cameras out so that you know where they're coming from and so forth. And then, with the big deer, we set up as close as we could to where they normally came through with that's we tried to go to them because I think the year before, one of the reasons it didn't work out really well is because we were so far away. We hadn't had much history with where they were coming out,
Yeah.
and they had to come to us from probably 100 yards away.
Okay.
So it was a completely different setup from the year before.
You were trying to pull them to you
Yeah.
versus just
Yep.
getting in the know on what they were
Yeah.
doing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So the redneck blind helped us out a lot with that for sure. We were able to move a little closer.
Yeah.
To where we wanted to be, we thought, and sure enough, it's worked so far.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can make it happen this weekend again.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's game time.
Yes, sir.
For like food and stuff like that, what's kind of the program that you run for early season as far as like putting stuff on the ground, baiting, corn, whatever? I know you mentioned deer ration.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously you can't start feeding until September 1st in this area.
Sure.
Because of the CWD
CWD.
zone. So you can't do anything like that. You have to get on. That's why I say we get on their trails, get as many cameras up as you can, and then as soon as you can start feeding, feed them. I think a big part of it is with that deer, he wasn't consistent, and I switched to a deer ration. It's actually a peanut. It's kind of a peanut bran is the base to it, and I think it's part of you see up north and so forth. They try to make their land as good as they can, better than all the other stuff around them, so that the deer come there.
Right.
So I think in the same way, everybody's baiting
Mhm.
anymore. Everybody's feeding corn, or a lot of people are. So if you're in an area where there's a lot of hunting pressure, I think you need to feed something that they're not getting fed somewhere else, maybe.
Okay.
Or you can kind of figure out what they like, obviously. But when we switched to deer ration with my deer from last year, 100% made the difference. I think is 100% the reason that deer was so consistent.
Yeah.
Was just because he liked that stuff. He was going to come in every night, as long as it was there.
Yeah. That's an interesting. I mean, it's a consistent thing that we hear when we talk to public land guys too, or just anyone. It's like, don't just focus on what your property has and what you're doing. Like, think about what's going on around you, what's in the neighborhood, and then do something different. Provide the thing that maybe is the kind of the bottleneck or the limiting factor that isn't everywhere else.
100%.
And then on public land, that can look like bedding, or that can look like water, or that can look like a geographical feature and things like that.
Can look like just going deeper than anybody.
Yeah.
You're gonna be willing to work harder.
Mm.
But on private,
Right.
it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it could be. What did Daniel say? Daniel Millette of Growing Deer, where his food, water, cover. Is there anything else?
I think those are the three. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just having something different
Mhm.
enough to maybe this was a curious deer who was just like, wow, that's got a taste to it. I really like that.
But you would kind of keyed in on everybody around me is probably feeding the same food.
Yeah.
I want to switch that up. We know they're pretty much good on the other fronts.
Yeah.
Let's get them on our side. I like that. That's a good way to think about it.
And like I
Private
said
land
before,
guys.
we knew the guys on the other side of the fence were hunting. They obviously, and so
They were selling your stuff.
yeah, they were selling our stuff too. So I mean, it wasn't. We knew he could eat corn over there most likely. So you have to. I think that was why he was so consistent, is because there was something else
Yeah.
on the other side of the fence.
Gotcha. So day of the hunt, you're going in and you're kind of thinking through like, how am I going to actually hunt this deer and go in? How important to you guys is I know you're hunting out of a redneck, so your scent's pretty well covered. You guys probably did the right things and washed your clothes, whatever. But for like guys who talk about, man, early season, I don't hunt mornings, and you guys mentioned that too.
Yep.
For someone who maybe doesn't know, or they're like, I don't get that. Like, what's y'all's philosophy on that, and why do you do that?
Not hunt mornings.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If that is your philosophy.
Yeah. No, I think I would hunt mornings. Both these deer, I think they were bedding in those fields during the night. That
least some.
we would have had to potentially bump them
Mhm.
on the way in. And with an early season deer, you can bump them once and you'll never see them again.
Mhm.
Like they're real suspicious, and they're fixing to split up into their, out of the bachelor herds, their summer place. So
Yeah.
I think
And y'all both of these deer in year previous, they had gone through a disappearing act already.
Yep,
Like, so
100%.
you knew
We
that they
knew.
were likely
they're
to.
sketchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if they're not showing consistently in the mornings, there's no point in going and hunting them in the mornings. If you have a place where you can get in good cover and the wind's going to be good, go for it. I mean, I think it's a good thing. It's just in these scenarios, it didn't work for us. And in
Yeah.
the past, that's kind of been my experience of walking in and something blows at you and you're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that could have been, you never know what,
Yeah.
monster buck or
That
something.
happened to me
Really?
during the velvet season. Yeah.
Oh man.
Walked in the second day and I was feeling good, and I did it because the morning of the squirrel cook-off, I didn't go, and I was like, I'll hunt the evening and I'm going to the squirrel cook-off, and sure enough, there was a buck that had walked out that I would have shot. It wasn't like the main one that I was going after, but I would have shot him. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna hunt the morning the next day. Walked in there before daylight, and I blew out like 2 or 3 deer. And I was like, crap, and I never saw that buck again.
There
So
you go.
I'm guilty. I
Yeah.
I made the mistake too. Because it's when you're walking somewhere that is likely bedding, that they're there during the night, you're kind of going in blind. You don't really know. It's dark, obviously,
Right.
so it's a risky play.
Yeah. No, I mean I've hunted mornings quite a bit in other places, but like it just on this particular deer, it just wasn't. We weren't seeing them enough on cameras to really make the risk reward worth it for me. That doesn't apply across the board. I mean, if you're to other people, like mornings can be awesome,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, as soon as you draw the rule, it like
Yeah.
an exception happens.
Right.
It breaks it.
That's all I was going to say is if you've done the work to sit in your truck and watch them, put up cameras, have some food out, and get intel on what they're doing, that's the work, right? Once
Yeah.
you've done that and you know what they're doing, you should probably listen to what they're doing, watch
Right.
what they're doing, and then
Yeah.
follow what they're doing and hunt
That's
them
it.
that way.
Yeah, that's it.
Rather than just decide, I think I feel like going out in the morning if they're only coming out in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's what this all boils down to is know what's going on in your area, wherever you're hunting, public or private. Get a good idea as best you can. Even if you're like an anti-trail cam guy, like you can still learn a lot from just good woodsmanship and hunt that way. Like you're going to be way more successful if you're
Yeah,
willing
sure.
to learn those cues and spend time in the woods and spend time in your truck with your binoculars, glassing them,
You
all that
bet.
kind of stuff. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So heading into this, obviously, archery, like the official archery season is about to open. What's y'all's like game plan going into this one? Without don't tell me your deer, where you're hunting or
where are you
anything
hunting?
like that.
Drop the
Yeah. You send me on next man.
Yeah.
Let's get it
I'll
going.
send that
We're
right
friends now,
over.
right? Like,
Yeah.
but going into this, like, has your strategy changed from what you did like during the early velvet season?
Not too much.
Okay.
Not yet. They still seem to be on kind of the similar patterns a little bit. I mean, it's changed a little bit, but so far not too much. I mean, we obviously have other setups on this place too.
Yeah.
But we have we're running cameras on other spots, and we did put out Zach put out some some mock scrapes with some stuff, and they've hit it some,
Yeah. He's
but not consistently enough in the daylight we're not going to hunt those as of right now. So kind of a similar strategy going into opening weekend.
So you're waiting for a little bit more consistent deer, a little bit more patternable deer before you're gonna actually go in and hunt that spot.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And obviously when you get into the rut, they're inconsistent then.
Yeah.
All
But
bets are off.
you
Right.
have a chance of getting in. Whereas right now they're not. I mean, the buck I'm going after this year. He's hit it once, and it was in the middle of the night.
Mhm.
So there's no point in hunting that spot, obviously. And there's a few other spots where we can put ground blinds out if it gets to that. But yeah, I mean, we're hoping to shoot him out of the same stand we got that one out of.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Heck yeah. Hope y'all do too.
Y'all like ground blinds quite a bit.
not really.
You mentioned them a couple times.
Yeah.
I didn't know if
Yeah.
that was one of your strategies.
I don't.
I don't mind them. Like I was able to take a deer 2 years ago with my little boy. He's like 3 or 4 at the time, and so for that reason, it was awesome. I kind of like it. I'm a wimp when it's cold, and so anything to keep that wind off me a little bit
Mhm.
helps me out. But there is, I mean, sitting in the stand out in the open, kind of hear better and that kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
It's kind of like
something to it for sure.
if you need it or as you need it
Yeah.
for a good play,
Right.
you're willing to deploy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'll use it. I'm all good with using them. I think they're a good thing. It's just I don't like being boxed in like that really, and you're down on the ground, and when you see the deer, he's seeing you at eye level
Mhm.
most
Yeah.
times. So
Yeah.
it's very difficult to get away with any movement with a bow. Obviously, you have to draw and whatever. It's just tough. I've gotten spooked out of them so many times. A deer spooked out when I was
Yeah.
in the blind. So that's. But I won't say I will never use them.
Yeah.
Totally.
Have you guys seen with the we had a real early spring, a real warm spring. I don't know if y'all remember that, but we're coming off bear season, and what we were seeing consistently, and everyone we talked to who are seasoned bear hunters, was bears just kind of turned off to the bait sites. They weren't coming in. And everyone, we kind of think it was that early spring just accelerated the acorn crop, and just mass was on the ground. And so they didn't need to come into the bait
Yeah.
sites. Have you guys seen patterns change with deer too?
I feel like we have a little bit for
Okay,
sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
I think they've, whereas normally they would leave the second week of season and start getting inconsistent or a little seem like you don't see them. I mean, there's some of these deer are just not coming in and if they come in once instead of 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
And I feel like the acorns are everywhere right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
They're really hitting those hard right now.
yeah.
I wonder if that's going to make alternative firearm / muzzleloader / rifle opener hunt different,
It might.
or if I
Right.
don't know, maybe
Like you're thinking if
like,
if everything's on the ground already.
yeah, like does the mass crop, is there enough? The oaks are different enough that we're going to have them just dropping from now until December,
Mhm.
or is it like the acorns are on the ground now?
Mhm.
Good luck later, deer. I don't know. I'm asking because I'm not
Yeah.
a arborist.
Yeah.
I don't know how the trees work, but I mean, we noticed it with the bears.
Yeah.
We talked to probably 20 people,
a ton.
close to that.
And you
If
see
not
it in the
past that.
quote in the quota too.
Yeah,
like
quota's low.
after
Good.
day one. So quota. Do y'all bear hunt?
We actually don't. I don't anyway.
Okay, so the quota, they increased it to 450 this year. It was 400 last year. Usually you kind of have like a ramp of, day one is like probably your most because that's your best chance to get one.
Mhm.
And so I don't remember what after day one was last year, but I want to say it was like 150 plus, and then it kind of tails off. You maybe get a bump on the Saturday because it opens on a Wednesday. So, but this year day one was 25 bears in zone one.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So
Way low.
And day two
That's
was maybe
crazy.
like 60 or something like that.
Is 66 total.
Total, yeah, or something.
Yeah.
So it's just
Holy
like
cow, that is a
it
big
really
drop-off.
made a big difference, and it was across everywhere. It wasn't just like, oh man, we're not seeing them at our
Yeah.
spot. It
Yeah.
was like, no, it went from 12 bears on one site coming in daily consistently to nothing. One.
I mean, as of
maybe is a nighttime.
Crazy.
as of this recording, I'm not going to say it's the same as of this release date, but as of this recording, the quota is not full
Yeah,
and not very close.
I don't think it'll be. Yeah,
And
it'll be a while.
the same story last year. I was then hunting on I don't remember, a Saturday or Sunday when season opened on Wednesday, and started having the feeling of like a bear has to I have to kill a bear or it's done. Like
Yeah.
the season will end and I won't get one. And it's just the difference in acorns on the ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This year, it's like you could hunt with a bow for the bear as long as you want. You have all the time in the world. Whereas last year, we seriously were like, if one comes out and it's legal, it's mature, it's whatever, like
Yeah.
we should really think about it. It may not be the biggest one, but we got
Yeah.
a lot on the property. Sure, like we should think about it. Not the same. So
No.
that'll change things this year.
Yeah.
I'll be excited to see or interested to see what that does to the deer hunting.
yeah. Same. I think it will affect things. To what extent I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe you hunt archery opener like you would in October.
Maybe
You hunt September like you would in mid-October. I don't know.
I'm curious for
Yeah.
you guys. Do you guys how much do you put behind like days that and wind and weather and all the stuff that everyone thinks about and goes into versus like I have time today, so I'm just gonna go hunt. Like, does that factor in, or will you not go hunt a spot because you're like, nope, I'm breaking my own rules here, and the weather's not right, the wind's not right? For you guys, what do you think?
I mean, I'm like that with wind. I would say for sure. Like if it's just gonna blow to where I know they're coming to, it ain't worth it to me.
Even if you're up in a redneck?
in a redneck, it changes a little bit.
Okay.
So-
A little bit.
a little bit, but so yeah, that'll change it a little. Because man, it sure seemed like the night that we killed him, and there wasn't much wind, but they didn't bust us because of our scent.
Yeah.
And they did smell. I mean, I feel like they smelled it a little bit. They just didn't know what was up.
Mhm.
But he came through and on that side and never
Definitely
smelled, didn't
downwind,
smell
yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And but so the redneck changes a little bit.
Sure.
But if I'm just hunting in a blind, like just a regular ground blind or a deer stand, if the wind's bad, it's not worth it to me. But
You
pretty
won't go.
much all other stuff, if I got the time and I'm like, shoot, if I can get out there and the wind ain't bad,
Mm-hmm.
just being out, like you never freaking know, right?
Yeah.
Right place, right time. The more it seems like to me anyway, the more hours I can hunt, the better. The higher my chances get.
Yeah.
But
Can't kill a
the
deer
wind's
from your
one thing I
couch.
won't break, I guess.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, same way. I think, and part of the thing with the wind, I think it's kind of a dumb move to go out there if it's a bad wind,
Mhm.
even if it is opening night and he's being consistent, because like I said, you bust him once, you might never see him again.
Yeah.
And with an early season deer, and I think if you can, we do research before we set up our stands, and even before we put out our bait sites, in the beginning of September, and just make sure that we're on the right side of it.
Mm.
So you can kind of figure out where the I forget what the prevailing winds, I guess, for that month is, and then set up on that side of it. So the odds are you'll have a good wind, or at least an
Yeah.
okay wind.
Hmm.
And you can have something blow in and it's completely bad.
Sure.
You never know.
So you'll look
Good
up
pro tip though.
historical monthly prevailing winds.
Definitely.
Gotcha.
And
That's interesting. So you just Google that? You just
Yeah.
Okay.
You can. I think
I don't think I've ever looked at that
is it
before.
like there's one of the weather stations that does it, and they have the history of, and they'll pretty much tell you right up front what it is.
That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
I'm using that this year.
Yeah,
that's
that's
huge.
a good idea. I mean, you're checking it day of and
Right.
week before, but
yeah.
pro tip, good stuff, Zach.
But-
Way to go.
But I mean, having multiple locations too will help that out if you got the time. then
Right.
Shoot. I mean, whether the deer's coming out or not in that location, it can't hurt to be there if you got the time and just want to go hunt.
Mhm.
And the wind's bad for your one spot.
yeah,
Having a couple locations where you can hunt different winds
Mhm.
is good.
yeah, that's huge. How many different spots do you guys typically have to where you can kind of set up and go on a different wind?
2 to 3 probably.
Okay,
Per piece.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
okay,
I think we have like at least 4 or 5. I think we have 5 right now.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
not on the same piece. They're different
Yeah.
pieces.
Right.
But,
Yeah. All
but
around.
like if something's bad here, sometimes we'll go over to another piece, even if there's no big bucks, and just watch.
Yeah.
Never know.
Mhm.
Yeah. See what happens.
What about moon phases? Moon phases were all the rage here in the Ozarks about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
And
were they?
everybody was talking about them.
I mean, it affects them. I feel like that was that the super moon that we just had,
It was
or the harvest moon,
about
or
a week
something.
ago.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like, and I certainly feel like they didn't daylight as much.
Yeah.
For sure through that time.
Mhm.
But I still hunt on a big moon. I mean, still, you never know when they're gonna mess up.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't really factor into your
Right. It doesn't too much to me.
No,
Okay.
it doesn't me
Yeah.
either. I mean, I in my head, I'm like, okay, good. There's no moon tonight. We're good. They're gonna be out early, whatever. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna hunt even if it's a full moon.
It won't
Right.
change your
It,
plan.
won't, it
Yeah.
won't change my plans.
Got it.
Deer got to eat.
Deer
That's
got
it.
to
I mean,
eat, man. They
Yep.
got to
They
do
got
their,
to get up and eat.
their
Yep.
deery stuff that they do, man.
Yep.
They do.
But if I think you mentioned something about scent along with that previous question. I mean, we're pretty particular about our scent. I wouldn't say we're just nutty about it like some people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we do try to, obviously wash our clothes and hang them outside all the time and kind of just try to keep them outside or like in a closed container. And then I use what's that?
Nose jammer.
Nose jammer. I'm a believer in it.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it
I-
it certainly helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously we try to spray nose jammer or something to kill our scent as we're where we're walking into the stand for
Hmm.
sure. If it's where
You'll spray it on
There-
the ground as you're walking.
no, we'll spray it on our shoes.
Oh, okay.
And what'd you have this year? You had something different.
I got it at the hunting show. I was with Peyton. It was at Northwest Ark. It was in the
Yeah, the hunter's night.
Hunter's Night.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what
okay.
it was. And it's one of the guys there that was running it. It's like the dust in the sock or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And you just
For sure, if you
throw it all over you. It looks like flour on you. But
For
sure, if you're
I
gonna-
feel like it's a good product. I
Really?
really do.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. If you're gonna walk through where you feel like they might come through, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it hurts for
Mm.
sure.
Yeah.
If nothing else,
Just
it's
to try
like
to-
something to confuse
Yeah,
a little bit. And,
So-
and they don't just go, that's a man.
Right.
That's human.
That's a hairy,
Yeah.
stinky guy.
Yeah. And the nose jammer, that's basically what that is it smells like vanilla.
Mhm.
It's got a pretty decent
that's
scent to
interesting.
it. But it when I have used that, they can still smell you,
Yeah.
but they haven't blown out and just completely busted out.
Okay.
They might blow a few times, but when I'm using that, I've never had a deer leave the field
Really?
because of scent,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've just been using it for 2-3 years now. So
That's smart.
Gotcha.
Kyle likes to keep a bottle of coon pee in his truck, and he puts that all over his boots and
There you
walks
go.
it in. And
Hey, there
his
you
thought
go.
is like,
Hey, that works.
what a
If
cover
I'm
scent of
sure.
any kind.
yeah, like they're
I
not
just-
going to be wigged out on coon pee. So
I actually hunt
Right.
buck naked, just cover myself in mud. I don't care, man. I don't want them to smell me.
That's it. That's it.
I do believe when it comes to the scent thing, I don't think you can get rid of all your scent. I
Yeah, I
think
don't
it's
think you can
physically
either.
impossible. So you always have to play the wind. It doesn't
Yep.
matter what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And even if you can, the moment you walk more than 50 steps
Yeah,
and all
you-
your layers, when it starts getting cold, you're like somewhere sweating or it's
Yeah.
going to start to. And that
Yeah,
even that is enough
exactly.
scent that, yeah, I mean, you can manage
Yeah.
as best you can, but I'm with you.
It's
I kind of fall on, philosophy of do everything you can
Mhm.
to beat them, but also be smart. You just be smart in the woods.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, heck yeah, guys! I'm excited. Hopefully, to the people listening, hopefully you've got a few good tips to think through, and maybe you're just like I never heard some of these things. This is new information to me, or maybe you have, and it's just kind of refresher. Hopefully, this helps you guys get out there and have some success this archery season. To you guys, good luck.
Thank you.
Hopefully, you guys can tag out on day one again,
That'd be
Hopefully.
and I hope to be seeing
Day
some
one again,
pictures.
also meaning second day one for some reason of this Arkansas season.
I guess that's true.
we had
yeah.
day one deer,
Right.
and then we have another day one.
Yeah.
Weird gap in between.
You got 2 bucks tags. You need to get can you get a 171? Think you can beat that?
I think I'm done for
You
the
got
year.
one on camera that you're not telling us about?
No, I think I'm done for the year. We might have one, but that's him.
That's true.
He's up to
Well,
bat.
Zach's got to get one, and then
Yeah,
he
he's
can
up to bat.
bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, back up.
There you go. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for coming on, and good luck this season.
thanks for having us.